James Swanwick here. Have you ever felt pressure in your life? Maybe pressure to perform in your job or your career, maybe pressure from parents to live a certain way, maybe cultural pressure to live a certain way. You should get married, you should have kids, you should get a mortgage, you should do this. Have you ever felt that pressure and anxiety from expectation? Maybe you've gone through a divorce or you're contemplating a divorce, and you've been seeking refuge with food and alcohol, or maybe some other kind of vice. Could be love and attention. Some people are love addicts. These are some of the topics we're going to be talking about today in an interview with a wonderful woman by the name of Manon Mathews, who is an American comedian. She's an actress and she's a social media personality. Manon is best known for her videos on Vine back in the day. And one of her videos, which we're going to talk about on Facebook, actually has 77 million views, which is hilarious. I'll let her explain it a little bit more as we get into this interview. But Manon talks about the pressure to perform in her profession and the pressure of her parents, and how later on that pressure, amongst other things, drove her to food and alcohol, how she got out of her food and alcohol addictions by doing some 12-step programs, and now how she, or later on, I should say, went through a devastating divorce and how she managed to navigate that divorce being alcohol-free. We talk about various self-development tools in terms of gratitude and presence and many other things that you can incorporate into your own life so you can reduce cravings for alcohol, reduce your anxiety and stress overall, and really to be able to handle any type of devastating situation with as much presence and ease as possible. Jennifer Aniston, the Hollywood actress. Manon Mathews and I share Jennifer Aniston in common in the sense that Manon is a huge Jennifer Aniston fan. In fact, I'll let her share the story. And I actually quit drinking in part because of a photo that I had taken with Jennifer Aniston. I won't reveal more now. I'll let you listen in to this conversation and it will become obvious what we're talking about. And enjoy the conversation with Manon Mathews. Just before we begin the interview, just a reminder, if you'd like to get my alcohol freedom formula, which outlines the steps that you can take to get long-term power over your drinking habits, whether that means quitting entirely or whether it means reducing, whether it means quitting for a time and then, doing moderation afterwards, then you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. If you would like to book an exploratory phone call with one of my coaches to see if one of our programs may be for you, including Project 90, which helps high performers get long-term power over their drinking habits, then you can book that call at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. Or if you're in the US on a mobile phone, you can text me at the number 44222 and text me the word Project 90, and I will text message you back a calendar link where you can book that exploratory call. We also talk a little bit about gratitude in this interview. Just a reminder, if you'd like to get a free printout PDF version of my Positive Shift Journal, which is a mind rewiring journal, then you can go to positiveshiftjournal.com. And if you'd like to get a hard copy of the journal and have it sent out to you, you can go to the same website. And if you use the code JAMES at checkout, you'll get a little discount, family and friends discount there if you want the hard version. So the free version is there. You can download it for free from the website. And if you do want a physical copy sent out to you, you can use that discount. All right. Manon Mathews, wonderful woman, beautiful soul, very caring, very funny, and tremendous guidance in this interview as she shares her journey of life, of drinking and not drinking, navigating life's challenges. Here she is, Manon Mathews. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing, Manon. Where did you grow up? What are your parents like? What were your cultural interests? What was life like growing up?
I grew up in Los Angeles, California, born and raised, born in Santa Monica, near the ocean. That's where I learned to walk, was at Palisades Park. My parents then moved me to the Valley area, and I was brought up as an only child. So I had a lot of alone time in front of the mirror to make faces and to dance to pop music, which was really fun. I had very, very goofy parents who would sing to me in the morning. My mom would like wake me up with song, and my dad would literally tell me nighttime stories until I was like 18. So they
Mm.
definitely coddled me, babied me. I was the most important thing in the world to them, which was amazing. And I felt really loved, oftentimes smothered. But it was like a good thing. And then it was also negative in the sense that I felt a lot of pressure to get it right. And I often felt like I was failing and getting everything wrong. And then I would feel like, you know, the most amazing thing, the most amazing piece of shit that the world revolved around. So it was just like all or nothing, very like, you're good, you're bad, you're good, you're bad. So highly emotional kid. Um,
Mm.
and but also beautiful childhood with so much play. Like my parents were very so not very, but goofily affectionate with one another. Like they would often be like, man, and look over here. And then I would look and they would go to kiss, but go blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, oh man. And they would cook me waffles on the weekend. It was a beautiful childhood, lots of play. Uh,
Mm.
Yet I was crying a lot. So I don't know what happened there other than, yeah, I do know what happened. I didn't feel like I had a safe place to land with my emotions. That was the one sore spot.
Huh. What when you said that you felt pressure, what age were you aware of feeling this pressure?
5.
Really? At 5 years old?
I remember like being in my dad's car in the passenger, and he was upset about something, and inside I was like, I must be the worst kid in the world because look how upset my dad is. And so I took a lot of pain on inside very young. And then that just progressed and kept going until this afternoon when he was over.
How young are you now, Manon?
32.
Okay. So looking back, when you're sharing that you felt pressure at age 5, how do you feel that has influenced your life in adulthood? Like, how has that dictated choices you've made?
Uh, it's probably dictated every choice I've ever had. I felt so much pressure to get things right, and then I felt like I never did. So I often would do the wrong thing, which is oftentimes the funny thing, if that makes sense. So there's the thing to do, and then there's the thing that like no one ever does. So I would purposely do this thing that no one ever does so that I had control over what I felt I was doing wrong, if that makes sense. So it led me to comedy. Comedy is often the weird thing. So I had very poor grades unless it had to do with math. For some reason, I was pretty good at math or choir or theater. I was good at those things because I guess I naturally can carry a tune. But I also feel like improvisation for theater, there's no getting it right. The only thing you have to do is say yes to the present moment and then add information. But you can't be wrong with the information that you add. So I felt like I had a lot of power in that, and no one could be like, that's wrong. I never wanted to hear like you messed up because I got so much of that at home. And I felt like that kind of pressure steered me into what I do now, which is uh, record what people don't usually record on their phones and then post it to social media. And I
Mm.
mean, some people do comedy, but I guess in the world in which I grew up, not a lot of people were really going down that route. They were really scholarly and seemed like everyone seemed like they knew what they were doing. And I felt really alone. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. What is happening? How's everybody who got the life book that I didn't get? Why does everyone get it? Why don't I get it? And then we moved when I was 11 from one school to the other. So I had all these friends and it felt like life was, even though there was that pressure, I still had my group of girlfriends that I love so much. And then we moved and then I had nobody. And then I started getting made fun of. And then my humor really skyrocketed because I had to develop wit to defend myself. So then there's that whole thing. So I felt it definitely added a lot, because then I felt like I needed to relieve the pressure with something. So I turned to, food and alcohol and anything that would kind of self soothe the thing inside me that didn't feel good enough.
Two questions. When you post to Instagram or Facebook today, on average, how many views or likes or comments do you get? I mean, it's a lot, right? You've got about 750,000 Instagram followers. You've got videos that have racked up millions of views. Yeah, just on average, what do you think the viewer rate or engagement rate is?
Yeah, it depends on the platform. So when I was on Vine, I had 3 million followers, and I would say that those, I don't know, there's some statistic that somebody got where I had 1.6 billion loops just on Vine. On Facebook, my biggest video has 77 million views. On average, TikTok would be 500,000 views. Instagram, it's kind of dipped a bit. Depends on if it's a reel or a video. Anywhere between 100,000 to a million views.
Okay.
100 comments to 1,000 comments. It's hard to say an average, but that's the range. It's a lot, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
That
it
you're
is a
trying to,
lot. It
you're
is
just
a
trying to
lot.
let people know that I have views.
Well, no, it leads me up to my next question,
Okay.
because you talked a lot about having pressure, right? Pressure from parents, pressure to perform. So my question is, now, today, you're 32 years old, you're an adult, and you know that things that you're going to post are probably going to rack up 500,000 views on TikTok or 100,000 to a million views on Instagram. What pressure do you feel when you hit publish?
So I just had an epiphany. I went, oh, so I just tried to keep comfortable and stay with what's familiar, which is, where can I find the most pressure? So online and on stage, there feels like a lot of pressure. So that's interesting. I don't remember the question because I had that thought. Oh, where do I feel pressure, or do I feel pressure when I post?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, when I did Vine, I did it without any makeup, and I didn't think anyone would see it. So I think that ripped the band-aid of trying to get anything perfect or have it look good or sound good. So that kind of set the bar of like, none of it matters. Like, it's hard. I feel more pressure when I do stand-up because there's actual human beings right there in front of me and I can get the reaction. Online, I do have a bit of a disconnect that, like, I'm like, people are seeing this. I guess there's a number, there's people comments, but I can't really kinesthetically feel it in my body. So I don't know if I feel too much pressure. What I do feel is the sorrow when a video doesn't hit. A video that I really liked, that I maybe paid for production or just laughed a lot at and posted it, and it doesn't hit, a million views. I feel a sadness or a defeat, like, oh man, the algorithm is out for me, or maybe my videos aren't going to be what they once were, or whatever. Um, I don't necessarily feel a pressure to post. I just feel a pressure to somehow stay relevant, if that makes sense. It's weird because I see both sides, where sometimes I'll feel a pressure, but sometimes I won't. And I think a lot of that has come up with age and time and just trusting the universe, and everything that was happened for me so spontaneously and not so mechanically, where it was like, okay, and this is my schedule, and it was not organized. It was very chaotic and sporadic, and so I feel like that's been my strategy to get a following. So I feel like that's what I keep doing, is just like post when I feel the spark. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Is your self-worth dictated by the views or the followers or the engagement or the praise or the criticism?
Sometimes it is. Sometimes when I post a video that I just feel like is so me and authentic and people like it, I feel really good, like I'm doing good work. Um, if a video doesn't do well, meaning it doesn't have many views or comments, I feel like not that great. I don't know if it's my self-worth, but it kind of depends on how much I'm taking care of myself. I think if I'm taking care of myself, it's weird because I actually feel like when I'm in a really good place, the videos do well. But inside, if I'm like searching or just impulsive or not taking the best care of my spiritual fitness, the videos won't do well. It's almost like the reflection of where I'm at vibrationally.
Hmm. Tell me more about that. That's interesting. So you perform creatively the best when you are spiritually in alignment, or when you're feeling the best, Manon.
Yeah. I yeah. I've the videos that go viral are when I'm just so on cloud nine. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm in gratitude about everything. And I'm just in so much joy when I'm filming. When I'm in joy when I'm filming, I feel like the energy comes across in the video. And then when I'm posting, not because I'm trying to get views, but because I want to be of service or share the joy, it does well and it flourishes. And I feel like it is all energy because I remember I did there was this something called Insight seminars in Santa Monica, and it was like a weekend retreat healing time where we went inward and we shared and we cried and we became powerful. And I remember posting a video on that last day where I felt so incredible. And even in the video that I recorded, I was tapping into the 15-year-old Manon who's dancing in the car and she's having the time of her life. And I just felt like those two things sparked this vibration that when I posted, that's the one that got 77 million views on Facebook. It's one of my most memorable videos that people reference and want more of. And I go, how fascinating that I would be on the last day of this seminar where I feel the best I've ever felt. And I posted and then that happened. I'm not surprised. I always look at stuff like that and the way things work.
What's the video for the benefit of our listener who would like to go and check it out?
This one is on Facebook. It's when she's way too into it, and it's me lip syncing in the car. And there's a guy next to me, and I'm lip syncing to the Yin Yang Twins to a song called "What's Happening."
Yeah, I've seen it. It's hilarious. I'm one of the 77 million views. In fact,
Yes.
I may be actually the 1 million views of it because I've seen it so many times. I mean, it's so funny. And if you're listening, definitely go and check it out. What should they type into Facebook to find it easily, Manon?
Just my name, and you'll see me in the car. You could also type in Manon Mathews when she's way too into it, or Manon Mathews Yin Yang Twins. I think that should work. I've actually never searched for it. So I'm just going to guess that works because that's how Facebook works. It'll show you the most popular of that person. Um, yeah, and it's a very compared to Vine, which was 6 seconds, but it's like a 4-minute video, and it's fun. Yeah, it's just it's verbatim what I did when I was 15. It was a one take thing. We filmed it, and I was like, okay, I'll post this. Like I had no fear. It was just like, sure, why not? And I didn't know anyone would like it, but apparently they like it.
Apparently they like it a lot because it's got 77 million views. Like these ridiculous, hopeless TikTok things that you're doing that only get 500,000 views. Amateur hour, schoolgirl stuff, man. And what are you doing?
I don't know what's going on here. I don't know.
You mentioned food and alcohol before, that you turned to food and alcohol at a certain phase of your life. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think my first addiction, first was like love and attention. Uh, Addiction meaning I just loved it and wanted more. Um, Second addiction was probably sugar. I felt a feeling, and then my parents wanted to make me feel better, and they gave me ice cream, and I really liked it. And then from then on, I just really remember loving sweets. I was like, dinner's fine, but I can't wait for ice cream, or I can't wait for brownies, or sweets really got me excited and hyped up. And I always wanted a bunch. I never felt satisfied with just like a cookie. I remember not understanding how people did that. Um, and I was always running around, so I was always fit. So it didn't seem like a problem, at least on the outside, until I think I went to college and there was like a froyo machine in the dorm room, and I would just like just like nonstop after dinner. Like I would skip dinner and just go straight to the ice cream and sweets. And that comforted me until I found alcohol. I found alcohol before college, but found alcohol I think later in high school, and I just was like, what is this? This is amazing. Like I just felt the warmth with my friend. We were at my house and I had like I think a shot of vodka or something. Blech, blech. But at the time, tasted horrible. But the way that it made me feel was really good, like a relief from life. I felt like life was hard at the time, and I didn't know how to like release that energy out of my body. And when I drank alcohol, I felt like it all went away and like life started and it began, and I was like, finally, okay, let's have some fun. Like, God, I can be who I really am now. I don't have to like whatever, like I feel like I'm like stuck in my body and I'm uncomfortable and I suffer from not enoughism, not feeling like I'm enough, not feeling like I have enough, feeling fear of I'm going to lose what I have, and alcohol took all that away. And so I had a lot of fun with that for and sugar, from food, both simultaneously from about 17 to 23 until, when I would drink, I realized I drank a lot more than I think other people were. And I had that kind of all or nothing mentality where I didn't understand why people would have one cookie or one drink. What's the point? Then don't drink. I want 10 drinks. So I quickly realized, like, I was blacking out and kind of behaving in ways that I couldn't remember. And then I felt shame about the way that I acted, which caused me to drink again and more. And then I had an experience in Las Vegas where I didn't eat dinner, and I was mad at people that couldn't eat dinner, but I was like, okay, I guess we're going to drink. And then I ended up in the hospital in Las Vegas. And I remember my boyfriend had his face in his hands, and he was just like, you could have died. Like, I've been the only one watching you in the hospital. And he was so scared. And I was like, I'm never going to drink again, ever, ever, ever. I feel like absolute, crap. And then, they say that some people say that the dis-ease of alcoholism centers in the mind, and that voice that says I'm never going to drink again starts to, once you start to feel better, it changes, and it says, you know what, it wasn't that bad, and you forget how bad it was, and then the person drinks again. And that had happened to me a few times, and I went, this is crazy. I actually vowed I was never going to drink again, and I'm drinking again. And it wasn't every day, but it was every weekend. And even though the consequences felt so dire, I couldn't stop until, I finally did. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Thank you for sharing. How did you come to stop?
Um, I was 23. I had that experience in Vegas mixed with a couple other experiences that I felt were very mortifying and humbling. And I didn't, I had some ulcer stuff in my stomach where the doctor was like, you really shouldn't drink. And the fact that I would still occasionally have wine started just feeling really like something's wrong. And I remember I was seeing a guy who I really liked, and it was only a week in, and I was 2 weeks clean. So New Year's, like my New Year's resolution, I'm not going to drink anymore. I'm going to really like take this serious and like clear my body and all these things. And 2 weeks in, we were going out to this club, and everyone started drinking, and I was powerless, and I didn't have a defense against that drink. And so I went, screw it. And I drank, and apparently I wasn't very present with the guy. And so he was like, I'm going to go. And I was like, what? You can't leave me. And I was basically getting rejected, and I didn't like that. He basically said, like, I don't really like how you're acting. And I felt like I associated the alcohol with that. And so that kind of propelled me to really stop, because I wanted him more than I wanted the alcohol, because my number one drug is love and attention. And that oversees alcohol for sure. But also I found a 12-step program that I walked into and had no idea what I was doing. And I found so much relief in showing up there daily and having people that I related to. Because I always felt really alone, right? Only child. I've always felt like I'm the only one going through this torment. And when I went in a group and heard them speak about how they felt the same way that I felt, and we had such different different lives. The details of our lives were very different. We were all different genders, different ages, different background, races, financial situations, all that. But I related to the feeling of what they were talking about, and it really made me feel connected. And apparently, the opposite of addiction is connection. And so, anytime we find connection, the addiction has a time for a break. And so, I found a lot of connection in those 12-step programs, and kept going and did the 12 steps and found a lot of relief. And I cried a lot and grieved for the first time, like grieved my life for the first time, and wrang out the washcloth. I feel like I was this heavy washcloth with so much water, and then I squeezed it out and I felt lighter. And time went by, and I was able to be confident in my own skin for the first time without needing any substance, which was, again, the biggest gift. I attribute my whole life to finding, well, first it was the guy, but then, we're not obviously together anymore. I felt like I was able to grow and learn and heal the parts of me that hurt in those rooms.
Mm. And was it the connection part that was the overarching reason why you were able to heal those wounds and get power over alcohol? Was it the connection, or was it one of the 12 steps, or all of the 12 steps? Because you said the opposite of connection is addiction. The opposite of addiction is connection. So,
well, I don't know about the opposite of addiction. I don't know if the opposite of connection is addiction, but I feel like the opposite of addiction is connection, if that makes sense.
yeah.
I attribute it to all of it. I think they say it's this triad of service, unity, and something else. Can't remember, but it was a combination of connecting with people in person, having that connection, like consistency of doing something, like creating a good habit. The steps, absolutely, 1 through 12, of I think they're laid out beautifully in order for a reason. And you got to do all 12. I mean, you don't have to, but if you want to feel that freedom fully and get everything out of it, doing all 12 is a really good suggestion. And then the service part of it, of passing along the message and sharing what you get from it to other people. I had never really felt like I was helping anybody. I was so self-centered and, oh, me, and my problems, and I'm just so important, and the world must revolve around me. And again, that's a lot of pressure. And once I realized in the program, oh, nothing's about me. No one's thinking about me. Everyone's thinking about themselves. And actually, my biggest issue is thinking about me. How can I think of others? That's going to give me the most relief that I've ever had. And it did. So it's a combination of what that program suggests. Again, all suggestions.
You stopped really going. What's that?
I said, which I really liked, right? In those 12-step programs, they always say like attraction, not promotion. Like no one's ever forcing anyone to do it. They're just saying, hey, these are just suggestions, which I like because I never want to be told what to do. I think a lot of people are like that.
I mean, my whole life is experienced through the lens of you don't get to tell me what to do. That's how I see that's, and I can trace that all the way back to my mum lovingly and supportively pushing me to do things like speech and drama and give speeches and join certain classes and molding me into a very nice young boy and man and all those kind of things. But I did feel like she was pushing me at times, or I often felt that. And so later on in life, I now see everything through the lens of you don't get to tell me what to do. And so it kind of makes sense. A lot of the things that I have chosen to do are not traditional things. My lifestyle is not traditional. Most of my friends and family are in Brisbane, Australia. Got married, got a mortgage, had kids very early, stayed there. Take a vacation once every couple of years, 2 or 3 years overseas maybe. Whereas I went the other route. I moved overseas and traveled around and bounced around. And now I feel I get triggered by people telling me how to live my life and what to do. I have like big government, for example, telling me how to live my life. I'm like, I just feel this inner, I wouldn't say it's rage, but this inner resistance. It's like, you don't get to tell me what to do. I'm a free man. I'll do whatever I want. And I can trace that all the way back to my mum making me give a end of rugby season speech when I was 7 years old, standing in front of a bunch of kids who were laughing at me because my speech was so terrible. And it's crazy how that's impacted my life. Even now in my 40s, just still, you don't get to tell me what to do.
And your speech is impeccable now. You showed them.
Yeah. The irony is that, she pushed me to give a speech. I ended up hosting a television show and got a podcast. I speak on stages. Yeah. Thanks, Mum.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mum. Good job.
The thing that we blame them for the longest, we end up thanking them for.
Yeah. It's also nothing to do with them as well. One of the things I realized only recently, I think, or maybe I realized it beforehand, but it really only resonated with me recently, was it wasn't that my mom or my dad or my friends or whatever made me be a certain way. It's that I made them the reason why I am a certain way. So it's actually nothing to do with what they said or did. It's just the reason that I've created for why I act the way I act.
Yeah, the stories that we create around situations that happen in our life determine the outcome. Yeah.
Yeah. You and I have both done landmark education. They've got a program called Landmark Forum, and there's the advanced class. And one of the things they say in that is we're meaning-making machines, right? Like we're creating meaning to everything. I'm curious where you feel you've created meaning in your life, and then after some reflection, you've looked back on it and gone, oh, that meaning that I created really has not served me at all in my entire life. And you've had a kind of like an aha moment, and then you've shifted. Does something come to mind?
I mean, I guess the first one happened before Landmark, when I realized nothing had anything to do with me. Like, other people's behavior isn't because I'm not good enough or I failed them or whatever. In fact, I have little to do with why people are the way that they are, which was a huge relief. That changed my life first and foremost. But I remember being in Landmark probably a month after you did it. You were like, hey, there's this thing. And I went, great. And I was in it a week later. And I remember we were making these phone calls, and I remember I have a half sister, and we didn't grow up together because she was significantly older and she lived out of state. And I remember calling her and being like, I've created a story that you don't like me, and I'm sorry for that. And immediately she was like, Manon, I've always liked you. I've just been very jealous because you got mom and I didn't. And I remember she started talking and talking and talking, and she's not a talker. It's the first time I ever heard my sister speak longer than to open up in general. And that wouldn't have happened had I not shared my story that I created based off of just a few things. She said a couple things, and I made that mean that she just didn't like me, which was not true. It was a story that I created. Many stories they're just false. I had a conversation today with a friend. He rejected. We were supposed to have poker night, and he said he was going to come, and then last minute he canceled. And I made that mean that he just doesn't want to hang out with me, and I need to let go of the friendship. I have to tell him today that that's kind of what happened, and he's like, I wanted to be there more than anything, and I'm really sorry I didn't come because that's what I truly wanted. And I didn't because I was people pleasing, X, Y, or Z. And it was just like, wow, I was so convinced so convinced of my stories that I create. And sometimes I create really good ones, I post a video and the story I create is this is going to bring joy to people and it's only good stuff. Or sometimes the stories are really beneficial for us and they lead us down really good paths, whether I don't know if I'm that funny or inspirational, but I have a good loop going that what I have to say, I think people like. And so that works for me. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But let's make some good stories up that work for us and that say yes to us and cheer us on rather than what some stories do, which are for a long time I was ugly because some girl called me ugly when I was 12. She turned around and she said, "You're ugly." So I said, I can't lead with beauty. I can lead with comedy. I'm not pretty. So, okay, I'll just be one of the boys. And then I developed having friendships more with guys because girls are mean. Girls don't like me. That was another story. They don't like me. Look, if they liked me, they wouldn't make fun of me like that. So women aren't safe. And that's a story and that's a lie because now I have beautiful friendships today that I, got to face those stories and realize that's not true. That was one time. And maybe who knows why they said that, I'll never know unless I turn around and ask them and say, "Hey, when you said I was ugly, I created a story that means I'm ugly." Is that true?
Mm, mm.
Like we never know, but it's really powerful when we recognize, and I'm sure you understand that too, is like we are creating stories all the time and they're either hurting us and making us close off to the world or they're opening us up to amazing possibilities.
Mm.
Really good to get clarity and to come clean about our stories so that we can get matched with the truth. Because once you hear the truth, then it can dissolve the story.
Yeah.
It does.
It's amazing how much I want to keep hanging on to my story, though. It's like even when I get to the truth, I get the clarity and I go, "Oh, that's just a BS story I've been creating." I go, "Oh, great. I've had the breakthrough." And then like an hour later, I'm like, "Oh, I really want to keep holding on to that story." There's like a safety in it, even though it's not serving me.
Yeah. It's because it's what you know. It's what we humans are comfortable with what's the same and they're uncomfortable with what's different. And if you had that story for that long and you're saying, "Oh, I'm going to change it," we're like, "No, I know this story. This one's familiar."
Yeah. It's safety and familiarity. And the irony is that the familiarity often is the most unsafe thing you can do for your soul and for your life. I mean, change, man, I have changed so much. I change all the time. But even recently in the last couple of weeks, there's been some big change that's been happening in my life. And man, it's felt really troubling. Not troubling, uh, upsetting, but in a very kind of beautiful way. I'm not sure I'm communicating this effectively. Let's see. The change that is happening is just beautiful, but there's an attachment. I don't want to let go. And letting go feels unsafe. And that causes stress and anxiety, even though I can logically look at it and go, "Oh no, this letting go is beautiful. This letting go serves you and it serves others and it serves the universe to let go." Can you relate to any of that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The funny thing is, I remember buying this house thinking, "Okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do." And and then time goes by and you're like, "But is it?" Like we think we're making these grand shifts in our life, but for how long? We sometimes like I remember even getting married being like, "Holy crap, this is what I'm going to do and it's going to change the whole route of my life and I'm going to be married for the rest of my life because what I assumed marriage would be." And I remember just being like, "Okay, I don't know about marriage, but if I do, I know that it's going to be with you and we're going to jump in." Not knowing 2 years later I wouldn't be with this person anymore, and actually like the change doesn't need to be so drastic. I think we put this added layer of like, "Okay, this is going to be the rest of," when it's just like, "Okay, this is the shift for today, but I don't know what the actual future holds." And that's what's kind of exciting is the unknown. If we knew everything that was going to happen, I think it would be far less exciting. And I know that sometimes shifts and change can feel really uncomfortable
Mm.
because of the unknown.
Yeah, I keep trying to control the outcome. Or let me rephrase that. I'm getting better at letting go of the outcome. I'm getting better at surrendering to the word surrender, which is an absolute mind F. Like, because I mean, my personality type is I want to control outcomes. I'm an entrepreneur. I own businesses. I know that if I do this, then this will happen, et cetera, et cetera. Geez, it doesn't work in relationships. It doesn't work in lots of things in life. At some point, I have to let go. And my work, I guess, or my challenge is trying to balance wanting to have an intention for something and have a strategy and a plan for it and setting forth on that road, executing the strategy, but still surrendering to the outcome, which is really freaking hard. Really hard for me. I shouldn't say it's really hard. I'm just saying for me, it feels really, really hard.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's a beautiful thing. If you can master setting up a plan in place and then letting go of the results, they say that too. They used to say that. I used to hear that all the time in the meetings I would go to. It was like, we're not in the results business. We don't know. We don't do things to get the results, which makes no sense because you're like, well, that's why I'm doing it. But that's why they say if you like align yourself with what you're passionate about and you're just being of service and you're just giving your creativity to the world because you want to help or to express, then the results don't really matter because at least you're doing what you want to be doing. So if you can get to a place where you're setting yourself up and you're going, okay, this is the plan, and now let me just enjoy the ride, then it's like that's the biggest gift of all. And that's where the passion and variety comes from, is letting go of the outcome and being in the day, really, really being in the day. I mean, that's why I used to see psychics, is I was like, just tell me what the future is so that I can be comfortable, so that I don't have to be blindsided later. I just want to feel some sort of safety for this next year. You know, like I just want to feel safe. It's all about feeling safe, I think, for me.
Why is that so important in recent years? Or is it always been important for you?
I think feeling safe, when I say safe, I don't mean like I think someone's going to come kill me. Um, in fact, I have the opposite. I leave doors on, well, I shouldn't say that. I have a weird abnormal, my mom is very like, yeah, no one's ever going to, I'll like, park my car and then throw the keys in the bush. I'm like, they'll be there. I just don't want to hold my keys. And friends will be like, what are you doing? And I'm like, it's fine. Because I actually I do feel really safe in the world. Um, well, hopefully it'll lead that way until the end. But safety meaning that somehow I'm not. That's why I always like to play it through. I was like, what's the worst case? I was asking this to somebody yesterday who's really torn up about some tax thing and da da da, da, like really torn up. And I was like, okay, so what's the worst that could happen? And they were like, I could pay the fine. I'm like, okay, so you have to pay the fine. Well, then I can go to jail. And I'm like, okay, so you go to jail. How long's that? Okay, a year. So what? Like really like play the tape through. And it's when you realize that you can get through anything and it's not that big of a deal. It's more like, oh, okay. Even if I went to jail, I'll still be okay. Like, I don't know. There's a way to like play the tape through to create that safety that, again, to me, not feeling safe is, I guess, being in the unknown of like, will I be able to handle this situation? What if I'm in a situation where I pee my pants again in public like I did in fifth grade, or I'm being made a fool, or whatever that feeling is where we felt exposed or so vulnerable, like we couldn't handle ourselves. But we're not that person anymore. We're adults now. And I think some of our fears are a tad irrational. There was a time where we couldn't take care of ourselves. We were babies, and if we weren't loved or held and dropped, we would literally die. We're not there anymore. We're self-sufficient human beings. It's not rational for us to be so afraid.
Mm. You have a book out at the moment, and you talk a lot about these types of things in the book, don't you?
Yeah.
What's the name of your book?
Funny How It Works Out.
And tell us a little bit about the book.
The book is about my life. I talk about getting big on social media. I talk about my upbringing, talk about addiction, alcoholism, heartbreak, marriage, divorce. I talk about love, dating, breaking up, speaking my truth, getting in touch with my feelings, learning how important it is to express what's on the inside. And at the end, there's 30 lessons of how to uplift your energy and feel good inside. I talk about Russell, the dog that oh no. Talk about
He's
my
just made a grand entrance, Russell. If you're listening, Manon's dog Russell has just come into the frame. Hi, Russell.
Hello. I don't know why he's has an accent, but he's not British. He's American. So he's my little puppy. He came right after I got divorced, and I truly believe he came to open my heart because I didn't really want a dog, and then I got one, and now I can't imagine my life without him. But yeah, it's for anyone that's, kind of in that 20 to 40 range that, anyone can read it, but that's kind of who it's geared towards. Of that, I just remember being very lost in my 20s and feeling like I couldn't find myself, or I wasn't worthy of speaking out, or, being messy. A lot of it is about being messy and loving those parts of, you know, ourselves that aren't perfect, and feeling okay to share what's going on the inside, and knowing that healing does happen when we do love those parts of ourselves that hurt. And I talk a lot about neurolinguistic programming and the unconscious mind and how powerful it is to speak to ourselves in a love nurturing way, because we're always listening. So it's a little bit of everything.
And you referenced a couple times that you went through a divorce recently. What practices did you instill to ensure that you continued to live an alcohol-free lifestyle and that you continued to be as present as you could be, and to navigate what you've publicly shared was quite an excruciating experience for you? So a lot of our listeners obviously turn to alcohol or other substances to navigate their stress and anxiety. It sounds like, based on what you've shared publicly, you had lots of stress and lots of anxiety going through your divorce. What was the tool or the tools that enabled you to navigate that experience as best you could?
I attribute a lot of the way that I handled the divorce. I say divorce, but it was really everything leading up to the divorce that I feel I handled better than I would have 10 years prior if I were drinking. I think a lot of the way that I dealt with it was so filled with everything that I had learned in the program and in Landmark and in Tony Robbins and Marianne Williamson. Like, I felt like the program was a gateway to all the spiritual knowledge that really helped me learn to take care of myself and to not be so codependent on one person. And so when, stuff went down with my marriage that I didn't expect so soon, I felt like I had so many tools, which were, I had good habits in place of not drinking already. But let's say I was new in the not drinking world. I knew to call people, to go where the love is, not necessarily back to the guy, but to people in my life that I felt safe with, to express what was going on in my heart. So I didn't try to do it alone. I'm not trying to live this path alone. I had a lot of pride about that for a long time. It can be really hard to pick up a phone and ask for help. Fear of being judged, fear of being rejected, all the fears can stop us from asking for help, which there's no way I could have gone through it if I didn't have people around me that loved me and reminded me that this is going to pass, and it's either him or someone better, or all the things that I couldn't really see because I was so close to the situation. I remembered prayer. I remembered meditation. I remembered journaling my feelings. I ended up going to therapy with him to close out and to grieve and heal and better understand, why X, Y, and Z happened. That was really helpful. I took it one day at a time. I didn't try to figure it out. Figuring it out is not a step. But living one day at a time and doing all the things that I just shared helped. I didn't try to figure out, well, what is the rest of our life going to be? In the same way with drinking. I didn't say I'm going to quit drinking. I remember the first day I got sober, I was like, what? I can't drink at my wedding. And the girl was like, oh, are you getting married? And I was like, well, no, I don't even have a boyfriend. But that's how much, how much I would future trip.
Yeah.
I got to figure out the future, and I can't drink. I need to be able to drink at my wedding that isn't existent. So I realized how not in the moment I was living. And I think we can do anything one day at a time, one moment at a time. If you're out there and you're like, I want to quit drinking, it is one day at a time. With whatever avenue you decide you want to, stop drinking, you don't do it all in one day. In the same way that if you see 50 stairs and you need to get at the top, you're not just going to jump all 50. You just take one little baby step at a time. And eventually you'll get to the top and you'll look down and you'll go, oh my God, I just made it 30 days. Seems unbelievable at the time, but you don't think about the future yet. You stay in the day, stay in the day. That's how I live my life. That's how I do anything. I remember finding out the information that was going to lead to the divorce, let's say in September. The divorce wasn't final until the following November. So it took from it, I mean, there was 6 months in the filing, but it took from September to January for me to finally know in my heart, okay, I'm ready to fully walk away without it being premature or me looking back and having any regret. Like I had to come to it myself. And, that takes a special kind of knowing and guiding and talking with others and listening to myself and listening to my gut. Cause I feel like that was my biggest journey and biggest lesson with this was, the body doesn't lie, energy doesn't lie, people lie. And I was oftentimes listening to what he was saying rather than my own gut, which was a huge problem for me for a long time, is I gave a lot of people power over my own feelings, which taught me not to listen to my intuition. And it turns out my intuition's a lot stronger than I knew. I just wasn't giving it any credit. And that was the lesson that I had to learn that. And I actually am really grateful for that experience and really grateful that I did all of that sober. And, I think if I had been drinking, I may have, posted all the screenshots of what I saw and just like created so much wreckage and made a complete ass out of myself. And I probably would maybe still be with him because I didn't have any self-worth. I don't know what I would have done, but I know that like sobriety got me through it as well as people and having good habits of how to look at my part, you know, my,
Yeah.
I chose the person. That's I have a huge part in this. This is not blame the world. Once we stop blaming the world and we start looking at what did we do? We have freedom, and taking responsibility is a beautiful thing because then we can change it.
Mm. I'm in 100% alignment with you on that one. Let's head for home. I wanted to bring up that you and I actually share one person in common. And that person, well, at least we have stories sharing one person in common. And that person is the Hollywood actress Jennifer Aniston. Just to tee this story up, tell us a little bit about your, I don't know if obsession is the right word, but let's just say your enthusiasm for a certain 90s sitcom and one of the actresses in that sitcom. Do you want to just share a little bit about that? And then I'll share how you and I are connected to that person.
Yeah, definitely obsession's the perfect word. Became obsessed when I was 12. Saw it being filmed when I was 12. I wore a big oversized Friends t-shirt, watched the show.
So we should just clarify that we are referring to the 90s sitcom show Friends.
Friends, yes, Friends.
Friends. You love Friends. You're a massive Friends fan.
Massive Friends fan. Love it so much. I watched it. I've seen every episode over 20 times, owned the whole series. Every hotel I go in, I make sure I'm watching it at night. It's my comfort zone. I watched it in college. It's what I watched. They're my friends. So, yeah. I think it was actually 2019. It was right before I decided to close the chapter on my marriage, and it was like my birthday. And oddly enough, I had just gotten a friend's cake It's like this three. So I seemed very, and every gift anyone gets me is friend cups, friends t-shirts. And so I'm like obsessed with Friends. And in the meantime, Jennifer Aniston joins Instagram and I follow her. And I remember doing breath work. And I was like, I've got you, man. And I've got you. Like, you don't need anyone. And I was like trying to heal. And I got out of breath work and I felt so amazing. And then I got a text and they're like, I can't believe Jennifer Aniston's following you. And I'm like, what? And I go to her account and she's following like 226 people at this point. And I'm one of them. And I'm going, oh my God. Because there's no one else that could have followed me that's better than this in my book at all. And I'm like, and I write to her and she writes back. She compliments me. I compliment her. And then we've been messaging each other ever since. She bought my book. She read it. Actually, I don't know if she read it. I just know that she bought it. She sent me a message of her holding it saying she came. And she's always said that we need to get together and break bread. And she's been really lovely. And I've sent her videos. And we plan to at some point meet in person, which we have not. But we have a cute little Instagram friendship. And she's darling. And I love her.
Wow. That's
and
pretty
she
cool.
Likes every video I post. Every video. She likes it all. And now Courtney Cox follows me and likes everything I post as well.
How does that feel?
Like I'm the queen and I've won life.
It's amazing. Great story. Amazing. Jennifer Aniston had a big part in me choosing to give up alcohol. Do you know this story?
Did she deny you?
No. She didn't deny. Did she deny what?
Did you? I don't know. You're like, hey.
Did she deny my advances, my romantic advances?
Like, you need to just stop drinking. You're like, okay. And that's how it happened.
Yeah, no, it didn't happen like that. No, I actually met Jennifer Aniston a couple times. I used to be a celebrity interviewer in the sense that I would interview movie stars and film producers, etc. at film junkets, I should say. And I first interviewed her when she was promoting a film called Along Came Polly, which also starred Ben Stiller in the early 2000s. And then it was 2007. I was at the Sundance Film Festival in Park City, Utah, and Jennifer Aniston was promoting an independent film that she'd starred in called Friends with Money. And I was there at the Sundance Film Festival, and I got a photo with her. And just as the photo was taken, I sucked my gut in because I just did not look good. I'd been drinking for like 3 or 4 days. At that time in my life, I'd stopped playing rugby, which I played for many years. So my metabolism had slowed down. I was eating burgers and fries. I was smoking cigarettes. I was drinking quite a lot. And I remember standing next to Jennifer Aniston, waiting for this photo to be taken and sucking my gut in because I was so self-conscious about standing next to a Hollywood starlet like Jennifer Aniston and how unkempt I looked and how physically unhealthy I really was at that time. I'd love to say that right in that moment was the moment that I decided to quit drinking, but no, it wasn't. It took another 4 years, actually. 4 years later, I was in Austin, Texas, sitting in an IHOP, International House of Pancakes, and looking around, just going, what am I doing here? Like, after having a couple of drinks the night before. And I recalled that photo with Jennifer Aniston. I still have the photo in my phone as a reminder, actually. I'll show it to you now. I'm not sure if have I shown it to you before, Manon?
I feel like I've seen it, but maybe not because you've shown it to me.
Yeah. And so that very photo, in part, triggered me into or inspired me into making lifestyle changes. There I am. I'll just hold it up to the camera. Can you see that, Manon?
So chubby.
I mean, I like to call myself the marshmallow man in that thing because my face is not even hard or chiseled. It's just like I got a double chin happening. I'm probably about 218 pounds. And just for reference, I'm now 185.
What was the date?
Well, The date was January 2007. The date on the phone it's a photo of a photo, so it's not accurate. But yeah, it was Sundance Film Festival always takes place late January, and she was promoting Friends with Money. I remember that very clearly. So yeah, Jennifer Aniston in part played a big part in inspiring me to give up alcohol, and my life has completely changed as a result. So thanks, Jennifer Aniston. And Jennifer Aniston seemingly has played a huge part, a huge role in your life.
No, I'm just kidding.
What did you say? I didn't hear what you said.
I made a joke of she made you stop drinking, and she's played a huge role in me drinking again.
Oh, I see. Well, damn you, Jennifer Aniston.
She's played a huge role just in my life in general. When I watch her, I feel like I'm watching my mother. It's the weirdest thing. They are very similar in their temperament and their sweetness and darling. Like, she's very darling to me, Jennifer Aniston is. She's always reminded me a little bit of like motherly. I don't know how she'll feel about that, but
I'm just imagining when you finally sit down with her, like, how do you think you're going to act? How do you think you're going to be in that moment?
I've thought about this many times, and I feel like I'll have to tell her everything I feel first so that I don't have to hold on to it. I just want to say that I am obsessed with you. I love you so much. I did this to Matthew Perry, and he was very strange. He was very weirded out by it. This was years ago. And I was like, hi, I love you. And no one was around. This wasn't like at a gathering. Like, we were just like out at this park. And he's like, oh, I'm like, yeah, I just love you so much. I met David Schwimmer too in New York right before I moved there. And that was a much pleasant interaction. But yeah, Matthew, they all have, I don't know, everyone has a different reaction to when you openly confess your love. But I think she'll already expect that I love her. I think she's very much aware.
Well, let me confess my admiration and appreciation for you being here on this podcast with my listeners, Manon. So appreciate you. Thank you for your guidance and for sharing your experience of life and for being vulnerable. I'm certain that our listeners have got tremendous amount of support and guidance from it. And I so appreciate you and our friendship. And I acknowledge you for the amazing journey that you have been on and that you continue to be on. So thank you.
Thank you, James. I feel the same way. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I want to load you up with some free stuff. If you look in the show description, there's a link there to get my guide, which is the Alcohol Freedom Formula Guide. And in that guide, I will walk you through the process and system for successfully reducing or quitting alcohol. It's the same system and process that I give to my clients inside of Project 90. And if you would like to get your hands on that guide, you can click the link in the description part of this episode, or you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. Likewise, if you would like to be considered for Project 90 to join our community and get some accountability, some coaching, and have fun, achieve some goals over at least 90 days with our help and support, then you're invited to schedule a complimentary coaching call with one of my coaches. You can do that by clicking the link in the show description or going to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. Now, Project 90 is for over 30s only, and it's really for people who are ready to get long-term power over alcohol. You don't have to quit forever, but you will have to quit for at least 90 days with our support. Just a reminder, 95% of my content is free and plastered all over the internet. If you just Google James Swanwick and the word alcohol, you'll find that. For those of you who want additional support, if you want coaching, fun, accountability, if you realize that you can't do this on your own or you just plain don't want to, then I invite you to schedule that call and we can talk about if Project 90 is for you. If you would like to take some of my supplements, swanvitality.com is the website. I'll put a link in the show notes as well. I have a liver support product called Loving Liver, which I designed and specially formulated to help remove toxins from your liver after years of alcohol consumption. Again, there's a link in the show description. We've also got a green powder there, which turns into a green juice filled with amazing ingredients to support you and give you energy throughout the day. And there's also a magnesium product, which I take every night to help me prepare for sleep and to sleep through the night. So there's a few options there. Lastly, if this episode or the show in general has helped you or supported you in any way, I would so appreciate it if you would write a review. It really does help the show climb the rankings and expose the show to people who don't yet know about us. So if this show has benefited you in any way and you feel compelled to pay it forward, just writing a short little review, hopefully a nice one, will be so appreciated, and I will thank you immensely. Lastly, if you'd like to talk to me about anything at all, feel free to send me an email at james@alcoholfreelifestyle.com. I do read and respond to every email. And you can also follow me on Instagram at @JamesSwanwick. Send me a message there. And I look forward to connecting with you soon. Catch you on the next one.